For more analysis on the state of compliance to the national lockdown, we're joined on the line by retired police crime statistics expert, Dr. Chris de Kock. Dr. de Kock, thank you very much indeed for joining us on SA today. What do you make, first and foremost, of the briefing by the police minister this afternoon?
I'm at least glad that the minister released from time to time statistics so that we can see what is the influence of the lockdown. But there's quite a lot of questions. It raises quite a lot of questions. Look, if we look at murder, at least the murder, it seems, is still going down. And that we could have expected, not as the minister said in the first week, after the first week when there was quite a dramatic drop in murder, that it is all because of alcohol, the fact that there is now a ban on the selling and transport of alcohol. Because I think the main, today at least, the minister referred to the fact that when we moved into level 4, there was an increase of movement of people going to work and to shops and so on. And that then gave the camouflage. It provided the camouflage for criminals in the last 2 weeks to start to operate again. And we see clearly in the newspapers and in the media that there is more and more crime. The minister even referred to the fact that there's an increase in carjacking, that there was a slight increase in carjacking, although he gave a figure of a decrease. I must say, when it comes to his figures on true crimes, it is quite confusing, and I think if one can see the figures, it would be much better. Because if I make a quick calculation, the numbers that he mentioned, that there was a drop in carjacking, robbery at non-residential residences, which is basically business, and robbery at residential premises, those figures are less than the figures that he announced after the first week of lockdown, right at the beginning. So some of the figures raises more questions than answers. And then one last main remark is the minister does not release figures, which I think is much more important in this lockdown. And that is, for example, street robbery. I have read many reports where people, where they went and fetched some food, bought some food, or even received some food, that those were robbed on their way home or as they exit the shop, that it is robbed in that situation. Now, there's no mention of street robbery. We don't know if it's up or it's down. Also, burglaries in the poorer areas, not burglaries in the leafy suburbs of Johannesburg and Pretoria and Cape Town, but in the poor areas, in the townships, in the informal settlements. Because in these circumstances where people can't move because there's a risk for the criminal to move, he will just go nearby and either do street robbery or he will do some burglary. And that figures we don't see. So it's a little bit, I would have liked, and I've even written a little article after the first release, that those figures should be released, and still we don't have those figures.
Yeah, the minister did speak about GBV being up by 500%, an increase in relation to distress calls and not necessarily reported cases. I want to go back to that part where he spoke about domestic violence, for example, sexual assault, rape, and such contact crimes, as it were, pertaining to people. Most sexual assault cases are normally with people that know the victim or perpetrator. He says there's a sharp decrease from 21,000 to 6,000 during the lockdown in reference to reported cases, but stressing the fact that a lot of people, possibly there's a victim out there, like you're saying, who have not reported those crimes and gone out to report them. So the numbers are important, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the minister's interpretation is correct in the sense that the minister say that the people, the number of people calling in on the lines are increasing, that there was a dramatic increase there, and that may be the figure that reports were referring to earlier this week. But then he say that there was this dramatic drop of 68.4% in reported cases of GBV, gender-based violence. But then he was also very confusing because he say that all violence against women and children are not GBV cases, which is true. I mean, if a woman walks down the street and she's robbed of a handbag and whatever, and even shot in the process, that is not GBV. It is violence against women, but it's not GBV. Now, the police, unfortunately, as far as I know, when I was there, didn't keep GBV figures. And the closest that they may come to that is domestic violence. But also, it's not registered as domestic violence. It's indicated somewhere on the docket that this was probably a domestic violence case. And I don't have much trust in those figures. I just think there's two reasons why the figures that he mentioned from 21,000 down to 6,000, which is a 68.4% drop. I think point number one, there's confusion about the definition and the category of GBV, and the police are not in a position to actually give us GBV figures. And secondly, the reason that he mentioned, that people are getting assaulted, maybe raped, and all of those things in their house, but there is just no way that they can go and report it. They can't even phone because the perpetrator are in the very same house. And if that person phone, he or she can very well be dead.
Time, Doc, but quickly, let's come back to the South African Police Service and SANDF number, the number of complaints that have come through, and as well as the infections that they've had at those stations. It's a bit worrisome that there's been a lot of complaints that have come in particular, the Minister speaking about 11 people have died in police custody.
Yeah. No, that figure doesn't look good at all. Those figures doesn't look good at all, and I think that unfortunately, you know, we use this very same brush to brush the whole of the police service. I think there are people doing very good work under very difficult circumstances. They also, you know, are vulnerable to the disease, to the COVID, and so on. But I think, unfortunately, there are some members of the police and some members of the defense force who went totally out of line, and they definitely did not do what they should do.
What do you make, Doc? Just on passing point, towards the end of the press briefing, the minister spoke about the fact that although he's a member of the NCC, this pertaining, of course, to the alcohol and cigarette ban, I know that there's a lot of questions on that. He spoke about the fact that you find somebody driving, the complaints or the questions that were asked to him, somebody driving, they're having a cigarette or whatever in their vehicle, and some saying, but why are those people being arrested? It is a sticky one, and there's still going to be more to come because a lot of people have been complaining and are waiting for those industries to open up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting for that day. And it is, I think in any case, when it comes to cigarettes, I see people daily in public smoking. Even this morning, I saw quite a few people smoking wherever I went. And now, I mean, how can you distinguish? Is that now cigarettes that was bought on the black market, or is that still, you know, stock that this person had in his house because he was preparing for a long lockdown? And also, if we look to all the opinions, and I mean there are opinions daily in all the newspapers and on Google and everywhere, it seems that the time that we had this alcohol ban and the cigarette ban is now should be over. Also, the minister, right at the beginning of this briefing of today, mentioned that organized crime have now, you know, gone into this illicit market of cigarettes and alcohol. And if we allow this situation to continue, they will entrench themselves in that specific market.
Yeah.
And in the process, they will destroy the legal market.
Yeah. Dr. Chris de Kock, thank you very much indeed for joining us right here on SABC News Channel. On SA today, there was retired police crime statistics expert Dr. Chris de Kock speaking to us, of course, following that media briefing by the police minister, Minister Begitali. We'll take a quick